Hey guys, welcome back, and today I am giving you my thoughts on The Baker's Wife, which I saw at Classic Stage Company this past weekend. This is a first-time revival of the production. I don't think it's ever been to New York, or I think it has, or it hasn't. I don't really know. It's a very obscure Stephen Schwartz musical that tells the story of a very simple story of a baker and his wife who come to this small town in France, and it explores their romance and the relationship of these two people, and also the town's obsession with bread. There was a whole number called Bread. I didn't just like this, I loved this. This made me feel like a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old or a little kid going to see his first ever musical. It was that magical. It was that captivating. It was that beautiful. The score is one of Stephen Schwartz's best scores to date, in my opinion. Better than Wicked, better than Godspell. I think that Wicked's score is highly overrated. But The Baker's Wife has clever, methodical, insightful lyrics that also happen to both simultaneously can be both extremely funny and heartfelt and put you in just an amazing mood. I have never felt so alive. I have never felt such serotonin. I have never felt such joy. And that is the only way I can put into words how this musical made me feel. Again, it's not a super revolutionary musical. It's not like the form is played with. It's not like the story is something you haven't seen before, and the score isn't necessarily a sound that is like out of this universe. I've never heard this before. It's in the way that they tell this very, you could say, cliche, run-of-the-mill story of love, but in such a fresh and smart and creative and insightful way. I love musical comedies that can intellectually stimulate me, and The Baker's Wife did that. Because, they do have a whole, commentary, or not commentary, but, the baker is a lot older than his wife, and the townspeople make fun of that, or they talk about that, and so it kind of, without preaching or without it making it the whole show, goes into ideas and themes of gender, of age gaps. If you want to laugh, if you want to cry, if you want to have some introspection and be mentally stimulated and challenged, but also laugh, have a good time, not be preached at, and have an escape from everything that's going on, and I think we desperately need that. But also not forgetting about the issues that are in society, then The Baker's Wife is for you. I honestly think this is one of the best musical comedies I've ever seen. I laughed so hard at this show, at so many of the jokes. Again, they weren't super they weren't like, oh, I haven't never heard this joke before. But the way that it was said, the delivery and the setups were so smart, and it just goes to show how far the musical comedy has fallen. But also how, if you do a musical comedy and you take care of it and you invest time in it, you can make something that is actually, timeless. This is a timeless musical, and something that can transcend decades. Comedy can date. This doesn't date. The set is an immersive experience. This is the video I took. You are literally in the town of that the play is in, or that the musical's in. And this is a replica production of when it was done a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, in London, and my god, it is a glorious production. The scenic design is beautiful, the costumes are beautiful, the sound design, guys, the sound was so good. The sound in musicals can be very, up and down. It can be super good, it can be very moderate, or it can be pretty bad. And you could hear all of the instruments, and at a volume that was loud enough and satisfying to you. But you could also understand every lyric and every piece of dialogue, and because it is kind of it's not a circle and square type deal, but it kind of is. There are various sound effects that happen in different parts of the theater, And when they happen, you're almost like, whoa, like, that felt like that was behind me. I mean, it felt like almost an IMAX, you know, if you've seen an IMAX movie, or a movie in IMAX, it felt like that quality of sound and sound surround system. I mean, it was amazing. And the sound designer of this worked on Suffs, and I didn't see it. I didn't see Suffs. But I want to give a shout out to Jason Crystal, who is a Drama Desk nominee. He also is the sound supervisor for Hamilton. He did Annie Live, and I never saw that. But like, my God, was the technical elements so well done. And yeah, I mean, it's just, you have to go and see it live. Like, yes, a pro shot, a bootleg would be great and you would still love it, but seeing it live and hearing that live is like a must see. I mean, you truly cannot actually experience and participate in the satisfaction of this musical unless you see it live. And it is so worth paying $200. I didn't pay $200, but it's worth it. It is worth it. And it is pretty close to selling out for most of its time, but there are a couple of days that are available. And if you are going to New York in the next 2 months, this should be top priority. Don't see The Queen of Versailles or Beetlejuice, as much as I love it, or, you know, Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York. Again, no hate on that, but this needs to be seen, because who knows when we will see this again. It should transfer, but it might not, because, you know, Classic Stage Company hasn't had a major transfer, and also it's not a cast that necessarily could be here for a long time. Ariana DeBose, and again, I don't know if it has the commercial viability to sell because of how simplistic a plot it is. It's very much the problem that maybe Happy Ending is, but if they had the marketing that maybe Happy Ending had and they went Best Revival, and because this is the first time it would ever be in the city officially, it could do super well. But again, I think with how odd the economic landscape is, I do think it would play a year to a year and a half before it would have to close because it wouldn't do so well. I mean, I think this could be another Waitress, another 6, but I don't know how much of that is my bias and how much I love it, because I do think people aren't like, oh my God, this is his best work, or this is like, you know, like I'm saying it is, you know what I mean? So I do think that my bias is probably overhyping it. So I take a chance on it, you know? But I think I'd only do that if it was in Circle in the Square, or if it was in a smaller theater, because I don't think it could work in a big theater like the Marquis Theater or the Stephen Sondheim Theater. This is only meant to be in a small venue. I think otherwise, I think that the intimacy of it and the magic of it wouldn't translate well, or maybe it would, but I think it would be a bit too much of a risk to bring it to a bigger house, because again, it's such a slice-of-life story that, especially early on, it could really suffer box office-wise. But again, it is a cult musical, so it could kind of be like Parade, especially if they get Scott and Ariana to transfer, but then it would have to be limited engagement, so I don't really know. I think you can safely say that if you put this in the right theater with the right marketing, you can get a good year to 1.5 years, a year to maybe 2 years, which would be pretty good. And then Gordon Greenberg directed the show. His only, like, New York credit was Heart of Rock and Roll, and we know that flopped hard, but this guy knows how to direct. I want to see him do all kinds of revivals and new work. Like, this very much had a Michael Arden-esque feel to it because of the scenic design and the immersiveness of it, and the way that they didn't necessarily, they didn't reinvent the material, but they added, you know, because again, well, I guess they never had a major production of it, and it's not like they didn't make an Oklahoma of it, but they made it fresh enough. Like, they revised the book, they moved songs around, like, they did work on it, you know, they made it so that it didn't feel like you were just seeing a replica production or the exact same thing in the 70s or 80s, like, they made changes to it. He added his own, you know, flair to it, you know, so he was amazing. The one criticism, and this is more of a book thing, is I feel like we didn't get to see the baker's wife more in Act 2. And I think that's a common criticism. And basically, her main reason for cheating on her husband is because she can't commit, she can't say I love you, and that's why she kind of has affairs. You know, she had an affair before the show starts, and in Act 2. You know, that's pretty much because she's scared of commitment, so she kind of self-soothes or self-destructs or deals with it because it's so scary by doing that. And I wish we got more of her backstory and more development in depth, because I do think that the baker gets more of that development, and the townsfolk. And so you could say that the female character wasn't exactly written in as an equally strong way as the baker, but I just feel like I wish I got, like, the baker's... There's a whole thing that I could go on about love and how this kind of fits into a love propaganda storyline, because basically the baker's main conflict and the baker's wife main conflict is about love and the opposite gender, and that being pretty much their whole lives, and that's their motivation, that's their conflict. And you could say that this doesn't necessarily pass the Bechdel test, but I think the Bechdel test is a bunch of BS, in my opinion, because I feel like in life we would fail it pretty much. You know, I think both, I would have liked it if we saw more of their interests, their hobbies, and it not focus on the relationship and the love. And yes, I know that's the point of the story, but I feel like in love stories, you have to be able to see them as full people, and if it's just about the love and wanting the guy to accept me or the woman to accept me, it can feel very distilled and simplistic and not representing humanity. The one question I have is that we have Barnaby at the end of the show. Everyone's like together and happy, and he's kind of walking around and seems a bit confused, and then the show ends. And I'm gonna ask you guys, how did you interpret that? What did you think of that? Because I was kind of confused. I felt like maybe Barnaby had some plot line going on that I can't remember, and that's why he was doing that. But I wasn't completely, like, I wasn't exactly like, oh, I know why he's doing this. It stimulated me. It got me interested. I was like, oh, I like this end choice. Didn't feel fully happy. But yeah, and also, I wish that the baker's wife said I love you. She does not say I love you at the end, and I feel like that's a big missed opportunity. But yeah, peace.